How are you? How is lockdown treating you? How are you feeling about things unfolding? How are you feeling about school going back on Monday? I, for one, could not be much happier. So if you're feeling similarly, it's absolutely okay to feel that. It's really normal. So please know that's okay. But of course, not everyone feels that way. Some people do feel incredibly anxious about what it's all going to be like, how it's going to unfold. And whatever you're feeling, I want you to know that that's really normal. It's really okay. Please know that, yeah, that feelings are important communications. So yeah, whatever you're experiencing is normal. This week is a big week. So this week is obviously our last week of homeschooling, but it's also it's budget day yesterday, so that might have been good news for you. It might have been slightly less good news for you. And of course, it is secondary school place announcements. Someone could please just give me a like, a comment, something, just a hi, just so that I know that I can see the comments that are coming through. Would be lovely. Oh, there we go. I think I've got comments on the left. So if you can just drop me a comment, I will know that you're watching, and then I'll know that it's all working. So, why is this a big deal at the moment? Why is this year any different? Oh, lovely. I've got a hi there, so that's good. I know that I can see. Hi, Rachel. I know I can see people. So it is a big deal. Every year, of course, around this time of year, we get told where children are going to be given their secondary school placement. But of course, this year is different. This year, people haven't perhaps had a chance to visit their chosen school. If children have got additional learning needs, that's a big deal, because you would have wanted your child to perhaps see the Senko areas, or to meet the teachers that they're going to be working with more routinely, more regularly. Um, it's much easier to get a child or a human of any age to do something if they're excited about it and they feel like they're looking forward to it. Whereas, of course, for many children, it might be slightly different if there's older siblings in the family already, because they might be used to going to that school. They might have been to the occasional performance, so they've been in through reception, they've seen the school hall. But for older siblings, eldest siblings, that's not always the case, is it? They might have driven past the school, or they might not. It might be in a different area of the city, it might be a different town, they might never have even seen it at all. And of course, with the restrictions that we've got going on, we're not encouraged to be driving past places we shouldn't be. So it might be that they really don't know anything about that school that they're now being told that they're going to. And if you can just use your adult frontal lobes to kind of think about that and how that might feel. It might feel really overwhelming. But of course, our children, because they're less than 25, they don't yet have their full frontal lobes in place. And so they're going to be, less able to contain themselves. They're going to be more wobbly. They're going to be more impulsive, because they don't yet have that capacity to be able to moderate their behaviour in the same way. So it's going to be really important that we look out for signs that that our young people might need a little bit of extra care and support in managing their world. They're going to be perhaps having to do lateral flow tests and stuff as well before they go back to school in the next few days. So it's big stuff we've got going on. It's big stuff. Hi Paula, thanks for tuning in. So just try to be available for what your young person or what your niece or your nephew, or someone that you support is needing right now, or might be saying. It's a big deal, you know. You think about your own rites of passage when you found out which secondary school you were going to, and you know, I know that I for one had done like a transition day, and hopefully, you know, they'll have that opportunity later on in the summer term. But of course, the children who are in year 7 currently, and the children who are in reception currently, they've started schools without that transition opportunity, and that's also a big deal. And you know, I've got a child in reception, and I'm going to be flinging that child back in on Monday after not having been to school since December, you know. And you know, I have to level with you that we've not been doing as much of the home learning as we should have done or could have done, probably. Is it could have done? I don't know, because working full time whilst trying to home educate is tricky. So, you know, I very much cut myself some compassionate slack there. But if you've got an older child, I think you definitely feel that pressure more, to not cut yourself that compassionate slack, because you're worried about how this will affect their outcomes. I guess I'm quite fortunate that my eldest child has just sort of got on with the home learning and been able to kind of pace himself with that. But I know that not everyone is in that position, and I'm fortunate that I can sort of juggle laptops. So if I'm not on this one, he has it, and if I'm on my other one, you know, we can do a bit of a swapsy. But not everyone's in that position. So, you know, it's that kind of analogy of being all in the same weather but with different boats, isn't it? I think that's really important. So, yeah, how are you managing? How are you feeling about the unfolding of the lockdown? You know, lots of people have lots of different feelings. So schools do go back on Monday, but of course, you know, when you've kept your child and your family, you know, just as a very insular thing for months and months, it can feel like a big deal. You know, it can feel like a big deal. So I got heckled in the park the other day, for trying to keep my children separate from another child in the park. The parent in question was not a fan of that, wasn't happy, and shouted at me and swore at me and was really quite vocal about it. But you know, I'm allowed to choose how to keep my children safe in the best way that I know. I couldn't quite believe it. I was quite staggered, and I wasn't rude. You know, I said to my kids who were on the climbing frame, "Oh, guys, just we need to come off now." And then the other child was climbing on the climbing frame, and I said, "Oh, could you just wait a minute, just while they get off?" And the mother, I've accidentally said what gender, wasn't a fan of that. Didn't like the idea that I wasn't going to allow my children to play with her child. But I'm allowed to make choices, you know. So even though our children are going to school, I still won't be letting them go to the park on the way home, because there will be lots of children then joining in, and I'm allowed to make that decision. I know that social distancing is not really so key for primary school children because of the bubbles and because of the proximity, but in an ideal world, you know, with lots of space, we know that more distance between our children would be better, don't we? But we are far from an ideal world, and children who are 3 and 4 aren't going to get that memo about social distancing without being reminded of that all the time. So we're going to have to learn to manage our own distress about that, you know, me included. You know, the idea that suddenly, you know, it's just been us 4 who live in this house, you know, and then the idea that suddenly it's us 4 and then they're out at school with, you know, 30 people in each of their classes. It's a big change, it's a big deal. And even, you know, doing the school run and trying to squeeze in through the school gates and trying to do the social distancing, it's a change, isn't it? You know? So I want you to really be kind to yourselves. I want you to really think about doing our breathing, thinking about where we are on the window of tolerance, and it might be that the children need some support with that as well. So let's just practice our breathing. So we're dropping our shoulders down. We're taking a breath in through our nose, holding it for a moment, breathing out when you're ready. Gonna go again. Okay, So that really helps us get into the space where we feel like we're able to cope a little bit better. So it might be helpful to keep doing your breathing. Has anyone got any questions or thoughts or comments? Is this useful stuff that I am spouting to you? I do hope so. I hope that this is all coming through okay on my, I've got a new webcam, so it's a bit brighter. I look a little bit less grainy, but I probably look a bit more rough as well. Yeah, the HD camera has its problems. It's a bit more honest about me not wearing any makeup. You know, I aim to be as supportive and normalising as I can be in these good thinking lives. If you like them, please do register to get alerts for when I go live in future. How did I respond to the mother in the park? Good question. I was sitting on a bench and I stayed calm, which actually didn't go down very well, because sometimes people want a fight with you, you know, be that a physical fight or an emotional words fight. Sometimes people want a reaction, and you know, I was safeguarding myself and I was safeguarding my children. So I said, come on kids, like, you go over and play on the swings or play on the roundabout. You know, there's plenty of room for us in the park, we can all be here. I was sitting on the bench reading some financial information, very very exciting things to do at the park, and I was flabbergasted, you know. I was taken aback. I couldn't quite believe what was going on, but I stayed firm, you know. I don't need to respond to pressure. I don't need to respond to bullying. I'm still allowed to make the decisions that are right for me, as you are allowed to make the decisions that are right for you. But me saying, you know, I was accused, I don't know, all sorts of things. It's not really the forum for it, is it? But I was sworn at, I was shouted at, I was called F words. I was told that I was ridiculous. I was told that I was the most ridiculous person that this person had ever met. None of which I think is true. You know, so I'm not saying that their opinion wasn't valid and important, because of course to them it is, but I know that I'm not a ridiculous person, you know. I'm allowed to make choices that are right for me, as you are allowed to make choices that are right for you. Does that make sense? So I wasn't antagonistic, I didn't shout back, I didn't swear back. I just maintained my position and asked my children to just, you know, stay over on the slightly less exciting equipment. And after a few minutes, you know, after about 5 or 10 minutes, well, the parent had kept moaning at me and kept kind of trying to keep it alive by moaning about me and criticising me from a distance, but I just was not choosing to engage with that. You know, I was with my children, and it's important that I don't hurry them off from things. You know, if there'd been a risk to me or to them, then of course I would have done that. But after sort of 5 minutes, I said, okay, come on, guys, we're going to go in 2 minutes. And then we left, and as we left, I was heckled out the park as well. But I'm very much aware and conscious of what my children soak up in the world and how they understand that. The youngest, it all went over their head, of course, but the eldest was aware of that and was timid and reluctant, and kind of a bit confused. So I said, we're going to talk about that on the way home, but just wait a moment. So yeah, I kind of talked him through it and said that people have different opinions sometimes, and my eldest is very well aware that that we do keep social distancing, and that you know, that's what we've done in our family. They've only recently been allowed on the park equipment at all. This is like brand new in half term. We hadn't chosen to allow them on park equipment at all during any of the lockdowns, so they've been really enjoying that little bit of extra freedom and a little bit of extra fun, you know. But if you've been allowing your children on park equipment, that's absolutely fine. As I said, you get to make different choices, but we get to make the decisions that feel right for us. So really want to normalise that, and I hope that's useful. Has anyone got any other questions about kind of school or children related stuff or lockdown? I am going to finish soon, just because this is probably going on a while longer than I meant it to, and perhaps a while longer than you thought it would be. I aim to keep these sort of about 10 minutes usually, and I think we've gone a little bit over. So I hope you're finding this useful, and like I said, if you want to register for text messages for when I go live in the future, I will drop a link in the comments once I've found it, because I'm struggling to find it. It's all moved a little bit anyway. Anyway, it's been really nice to catch up with you, and I'll look forward to catching up with you on our next Good Thinking Live, which hopefully should be more reliable and predictable now the kids are going back to school.